We all know it's rare for lightning to strike twice in the same spot. But while we are talking about a force of nature, we're not talking about a random chance event. What I'm getting at is that Francis did not shock the world against Tyson Fury out of sheer luck, but he did so by coming with an intelligent game plan and skills rare for heavyweight boxing. Welcome to Fact of the Matter. I'm Goose, and I'll be breaking down what I think is the best or most likely path to victory for Francis Ngannou to beat AJ this Friday. And to be clear, we all know AJ is a better technical boxer. We all know he should win this fight, and we all know what he needs to do to win. He needs jabs, footwork, and set traps to land big right hands. But Francis Ngannou has more than a puncher's chance, and he showed this in his boxing debut. Without further ado, let's discuss what Francis can do, what he may struggle with, and how he could actually beat Anthony Joshua. So first, what are Francis Ngannou's advantages? The first and most obvious one is his sheer strength and power, meaning that if he connects on AJ, he will at best look like a deer in headlights, or at worst simply go to sleep. This also translates to the clinch, where he'll be the first of AJ's opponents to probably, or most likely, have an advantage in strength and in the technical abilities of the clinch. So he will actually bring MMA concepts into the clinch, and we saw this in the Tyson Fury fight, Muay Thai techniques, which proved to be pretty difficult for someone who's supposed to be a master at the clinch in boxing. So on a more technical note, Francis is a very comfortable fighter when he switches stances. This is not something he did in mixed martial arts, but in boxing against Fury, he showed to be very comfortable from southpaw. So he has very fast hands, and he's simply built different. That's the thing. He has unparalleled toughness, even in MMA. He has never been dropped, let alone hurt. Maybe stung a little bit on a few occasions, but it's pretty insane. His chin is insane. So Francis also has a good guard. His hands are always very close to his face to block, and he parries a lot of straight shots. So those are his main sources of defense. But he also showed quick reflexes, and as well, that I believe are being overlooked. I think those reflexes, he rolled and slipped many of Fury's shots on many occasions. And I mean, obviously his head movement is far from his best attribute. I do believe that is more so because he doesn't have the best eyes to see shots coming. But when he does see them coming, he's pretty good at either blocking, parrying, or simply moving away from those shots. Moving on, he also has nukes for hands, in both hands and from both stances. While his right hand is his power and like his most dominant hand, even in MMA he has plenty of knockouts using his left hooks, jabs, and uppercuts. His best punches are likely his left hook and uppercuts from either side, really. And lastly, I think this is his most overlooked skill, his feints. While he doesn't set traps as much as Fury and AJ, for example, he still has a pretty feint-heavy style, mainly to make opponents think twice about his powerful counters, and this tracks even from his MMA career, but he shows that he has stuff ready for you when you want to come in. Now, moving on to AJ's advantages, the narrative goes that earlier in his career he enjoyed being the hammer, very aggressive and mobile boxer, but since his losses to Alexander Usyk and Andy Ruiz, he has improved his style to adapt to the holes that have been exposed in these losses. He became a bit more timid and calculated, and he started planting his feet more, which will play a big part in this fight, maybe. He also started to focus his game more on his jab and setting traps. We saw that especially on his last few fights, but he has always been pretty focused on his jab, as far as I know. This worked to great effect, particularly in his fights against southpaws like Otto Walling, whereas against Usyk he had a lot more trouble, even with a simple 1-2. But that was probably that can be attributed to Usyk's lateral movement. One of his best skills, though, is his powerful and precise shot selection, especially after setting traps with the jab, where he's able to land his jab consistently and set up a big right hand to go through the tightest of spaces. Like, even if you have your hands up, he's very good at still landing those right hands. This could present the biggest threat to Francis Ngannou, whose more immature boxing style, especially on defense, relies too heavily on parries. Tyson Fury punished this often on their fight, for example, and though with not enough power to actually hurt Francis in any significant way, AJ, on the other hand, might actually have enough power to be the first to visibly hurt Francis, be the first to drop him, and maybe even to break his vibranium chin if he actually manages to combine those precision shots with power, as he has done many times before. Lastly, one of Joshua's main advantages that I want to talk about is his footwork, which is simultaneously a bit of a weakness for Ngannou. AJ has a better understanding of positioning in the ring overall, and is more adept at lateral movement, especially, and that this is his main source of defense. It's mostly positioning and footwork, more so than actual head movement or even his guard. I think he focuses more so on positioning in the ring. We have already seen how Francis struggled to cut the cage, for example, against, a couple opponents, but in boxing against Fury and Cyril Gane in the UFC, who are also elusive strikers with very elite footwork. With all that being said, how does Francis Ngannou deal with Anthony Joshua? So he practically beat Fury with an intelligent game plan, so let's come up with one for him in this fight. So I've seen many analysts on YouTube agree that the more technical boxer should run away with a decision and maybe even a stoppage victory due to the Predator's hit ability. AJ's main weapons, the jab and his footwork, are also something Ngannou has struggled in the opening and middling rounds against Fury. It's easy to see how Anthony will likely come out with a slow approach in the first rounds, stinging Francis with a jab from a distance and moving around him until he sets up a big right hand in the later rounds and maybe finishes the fight right there, or just outpoints Francis. But looking at their styles, there's a big opportunity for the Predator to not only win, but also knock out Anthony Joshua. First thing I'll mention is Francis Ngannou's stance switching. He should be very comfortable switching into southpaw and fighting effectively from both stances. In the Fury fight, he understood Fury's jabs presented a problem after the iconic knockdown, and he switched to southpaw to take away Fury's jab. Fury responded by closing the stance occasionally and switching himself, but that's something I have not seen AJ do even when he was struggling so much against Usyk. Second, both fighters are wide open for counters, and whenever they commit combinations and power shots, they just don't move their heads out of the center line. And here's where the battle of chins and endurance will play its part. AJ, as of late, is also just overall more flat-footed than he used to be, and he's just not as elusive overall in footwork or head movement as Cyril Gane or Tyson Fury. So in other words, both are going to be rather easy to hit in comparison to these fighters. Because of this, I believe Francis should pressure Anthony Joshua and throw as Anthony Joshua throws at him. So let's sum it up. Basically, Francis Ngannou's keys to victory are two: passive pressure and stance switching. Passive pressure entails his feint game, where he should pressure without actually throwing big shots, but rather just showing Anthony Joshua that he's in danger, and wait for Anthony Joshua to act on those threats to actually capitalize. He has already done this in MMA and more effectively against Fury, just to give things for Fury to think about. Another thing that Francis actually doesn't do well, but I hope he worked on, is cutting the ring. Just his lateral movement overall and positioning. I think he has to. I hope he worked on this in preparation for Anthony Joshua. And I have doubted Francis in his last probably 3 fights, and he has proved me wrong every single time, showing improvements. So I hope that he actually worked on these skills. And the last thing for passive pressure is initiating the clinch. I don't think he should allow Anthony Joshua to clinch up with him when Anthony Joshua feels pressure, but rather when Joshua starts to show that he doesn't like where he's at in that moment, Francis should initiate the clinch, because Anthony Joshua also has a competent clinching game, especially due to his height. He gets overhooks and weighs down on his opponents. So if Joshua is the first to clinch up, I think he has a chance to do that against Francis, even though that's a strength on Francis' side. So I think he needs to initiate those. Now, the other thing was stance switching, and I think from orthodox, his main weapons should be straight shots to the body, whether it be jabs or crosses, preferably crosses. They tend to be pretty safe shots. And left hook, obviously. I think a lot of people have been talking about the left hook since Andy Ruiz actually, he knocked out Anthony Joshua with a left hook. And Francis knocked down Tyson Fury with one. Obviously, his left hand is a very good weapon for Francis, and that's more of like the obvious weapon of choice. However, here's my hot take. I think that Francis should actually focus on fighting from southpaw, and specifically fighting to take away Anthony Joshua's jab, or at least limit it somewhat, and then 1-2s, fast 1-2s, just like Usyk did. Obviously, Francis will not have the same movement Usyk did. I doubt he will be training for that either. He's just not that kind of fighter. But he has fast hands when he's not lost in his own power. Like, if he's not actually trusting too much on his power, he can be pretty fast. Specifically at that 1-2 from southpaw, he showed it against Tyson Fury. So I think that should be the focus in this fight. And whenever AJ starts to set up something, he should just switch, interrupt the line of thinking, give him different looks, feints, etc. So in conclusion, if Francis can be the aggressor, the predator stalking its prey, and throws a lightning quick 1-2 from southpaw, intercepting AJ's own strikes, I believe lightning will strike twice. Thank you so much if you made it all the way through. I hope you liked the breakdown, and if you did, please like and subscribe, leave a comment, let me know what you think, and tune in for the next video. Peace.